Daniel Libeskind is among the world's best-known living architects. Yet he was 55 before his first building was completed. He's master planner of the world's best-known building project, the World Trade Center site. Yet his first American building is not in New York. From Manhattan to the Rocky Mountains, we follow Libeskind on a journey with more twists and turns than his breathtaking buildings.
It is immortality. It's about God. It's about the divine. It's about light. It's about the cosmic place. Where are we here? I think that's the real ambition of great architecture.
It's early morning on September the 11th, 2006, the 5th anniversary of the attacks on the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. Daniel Libeskind is heading for Ground Zero with his wife Nina and assistant Thierry. As dawn breaks, an army of TV crews camped on a rooftop overlooking the site is already up and running. The man charged with rebuilding Ground Zero is in high demand from the world's media on such a day.
It's September 11th, not yet 8:46 when the first tower was struck, and it's a beautiful day, just like 5 years ago. And we are standing in front of Ground Zero, and it shows you the magnitude of the tragedy. It's not just abstraction. It's 3,000 people who died here. The vast piece of New York destroyed, completely devastated, and yet out of the ashes we can begin to see life rising, beginning to see construction of the master plan which I designed, and beginning to see life, the victory of life over these evil deeds. It's a very emotional day because you feel it viscerally. You feel you're next to sacred ground. You're not just in a piece of real estate. And therefore this site has to be developed in a way that is meaningful not just to anybody on the street, but to everyone. And you know, there might be a political answer to these attacks or military, but this is a cultural answer to these attacks. Well, you know, I was an immigrant to New York, and I'm an immigrant to America with my parents, and I arrived by ship just here at the Statue of Liberty, and looked at that skyline. I couldn't believe that human beings could build such a thing. I couldn't believe that human beings have actually been able to build buildings that look like this, because, you know, even with all the pictures I had, I couldn't believe what reality of New York is really like. My father worked as a printer, you know, for 30 years. Came from the Bronx by subway here. My brother-in-law worked at the Port Authority in the towers, and I went to school of architecture just around the corner here when the World Trade Center was being built. We used to come down to the site to look at this incredible construction. So this is very personal for me. It's not something abstract. It's not something that happened to someone else. It's something that happened to me. And to be able to contribute to it creatively is really a privilege.
In 2001, as the World Trade Center towers were reduced to rubble, Libeskind was in Germany for the opening of his first major building. The events of that day marked a turning point in his life.
I was in Berlin, and then ironically, September 11, 2001, was the very day that the Jewish Museum, which I had been working for 13 years on, had opened to the public. It was the first day it opened, and it was afternoon in Berlin. It closed. The attacks created an uncertainty. As I watched those images, I turned to my colleagues, to my wife, and I said, I'm returning to Lower Manhattan.
Libeskind was originally chosen as a judge for the competition to rebuild the site, but a clash of dates forced him to drop out.
The voice on the other side of the telephone said, well, if you can't be on the jury, Mr. Libeskind, you can perhaps participate in the competition. And that's when I first got the idea that I should compete.
Of the architects shortlisted for the competition, Libeskind alone ventured down into the pit among the foundations of the Twin Towers. It was there, looking up at the city above him, that he had the inspiration for his master plan.
My proposal was to leave almost 5 acres for the memorial. I started with those who fell and perished. That was the center of the plan. I didn't put buildings where the building stood. Out of the 16-acre site, almost half of it I devoted to public space. But I felt that that was critical, that
the spirituality of the site, the sacred ground here, should be really at the center. To have the slurry wall exposed, that great foundation that was revealed on that day and continues to be the foundation of the site. To anchor the site with the Freedom Tower, which is 1776 feet high, a symbolic, emblematic number, Declaration of Independence date, in the skies of New York, and then descending from that Freedom Tower, the other towers forming that embrace in a spiral shape, so that this neighborhood is really visible from the entire metropolitan area. The wedge of light, a space which I shaped in light, 8:46 a.m. When the first tower was struck, and 10:28 when the second tower collapsed, formed the edges of the plaza so that light on every September 11th will be eternally inscribed in the light of New York.
Libeskind's original master plan for the World Trade Center site was very strong. He's one of the only people who understood the need to weave together commemoration and renewal, to weave together a sense of the awesome and a sense of the everyday, so that the city could renew itself commercially, but could also commemorate in a very powerful way. Libeskind got that, and he did that very beautifully, I think. The problem with Libeskind's plan wasn't the plan itself. It's that once it was chosen, the people who selected it then didn't really fight to hold on to it. And they let it be eaten away at, and the corners cut, and compromises here and there, so that sooner than anyone expected, there wasn't enough of the plan left.
As a master planner, all I can do is really create a kind of the vision, the score for what could happen. And of course, I didn't win all the battles.
The private developer Larry Silverstein hired architect David Childs to introduce his own ideas to the plan.
We gotta get to work.
If body language says anything, this is the picture.
That's the reality. It's real. It's real. It's absolutely real.
The occasional public display of unity for the media could not hide the acrimonious battles taking place between the two parties.
I wish I could have contributed more directly to the site. I wish I had a chance and opportunity to build here. And yet, my role as a master planner, I think, has led to the development of the site in a way that would have been better than had it been just business as usual in New York, and there would have been no emblematic, symbolic meaning at all. It would have just been a piece of real estate being developed. So, in that sense, I'm glad that I continue to work on it.
In part 2, the dark history which haunts architecture's man in black, and stepping into the spotlight as a media celebrity.